see. I wonder if we're live. Let me know if we are live. Oh, Jenny. Yes, great. And the chat works as well here on my streaming phone. Wonderful. Welcome. Welcome to Strängnäs, this small town in Sweden, which I now call my home. I'm a few blocks from where I live, and plan to start this day with a little walk through the forest and then down to the water and along the waterfront in this town, and hopefully make up for the miserable live stream that I tried a few days ago when I got surprised by a very heavy rain and also the sound kind of broke up completely. Hopefully you can hear me well now. There's very little wind, and as you can see, it's a beautiful morning here. Here you can see the time, and also if you look closely you can see that it's 3 degrees, so it's pretty cold, but still for this time of the year here in Sweden it's actually not so bad. November is usually a month where we can have some snowfall, even in this part of Sweden, even though I guess it's not super common these days. But yeah, it's very nice, very beautiful, very peaceful. Live from Sweden it is, yes. What day is it? It's Friday. So I just dropped off the little one at her preschool, and I'm gonna meet up with my wife at the only coffee shop in town a little bit later, and we're gonna work on our new website together today. Justin, thank you. You watched my boat ride. Yeah, the one I published yesterday. Glad you liked that. That was a nice little boat ride. So I will walk here in the forest first, and then maybe once we get down to the water I will start talking a little bit more about the whole moving to Sweden and impressions so far, because I've had a lot of premieres the last couple of weeks, and I noticed that a lot of you are kind of curious, you have lots of questions and so on, so I thought let's do a live stream where I can kind of answer you directly, yeah, instead of trying to do it in the chat when there's a premiere, and it's a little bit more difficult. It's no ice because it's above freezing, so it's good. Yeah, I thought it was ice there first. Yes, Olive, the umbrella bracket. You've been talking about it for ages now, yeah. I still don't really see how it would work, but yeah, I appreciate your creativity. But one thing I can tell you is, like, the best thing about living here in Sweden compared to where we used to live in Japan is that it's so quiet and peaceful here, and it's also very, I have this forest. It's like not even 5 minutes away from our house, which is something I really appreciate. And whenever I feel stressed, a walk through in the forest always, it's the best form of therapy. Wow, 20 people have tuned in so far. That's not bad. Happy to see that. Happy to see so many of you here. Olive, at this point I could consider moving to Sweden, but I doubt they take me. Yeah, I've seen similar comments from a lot of people online. I always try to stay away from talking politics on my channels, but it's no secret that I'm not very happy, and I'm worried for the future of the world because of what happened the other day. So yeah, I totally understand your feelings, Olive. If you just get a job here, it's pretty easy to move to Sweden, but yeah, you need a job, you need to show them. It's kind of the same like in Japan too. You need a job, you need to show them that you can be useful to the society, then we're happy to have you. Look at this. Look at this nice light. So another kind of nice thing about living here is that this time of the year, the days are very short. That's not nice. I mean, I prefer long days, but we kind of have this beautiful golden light pretty much all day. The sun never rises too high above the horizon. So that's kind of nice. Yesterday I was in Stockholm shooting a couple of videos. I was planning to do a premiere today, but instead I decided to do this live stream. But yeah, and it's like, yeah, this time of the day, like my wife has a upcoming photo shoot as well, and they want to do it in the, you know, sunset light, but it's basically sunset light all day. Sunrise is about 7:30 maybe in the morning, and sunset is about 3:30 in the afternoon these days. And the days will continue to get even shorter for another month, and then they will get longer again. So in December, probably sunrise is like what, 8:30, and sunset maybe 3. So the days are pretty short, but at least we have some sunlight compared to if you live even further up north in Sweden. Then it's like midnight sun for a while, or sorry, not midnight sun, no sun at all. Midnight sun is in the summer. In the winter there's no sun at all for a while. I've never experienced that myself, but it must be pretty rough. Some of you are commenting on what I said about that you need an employment or you need a job in order to be able to move here, and that's something I want to touch on with regards to our move. It's been pretty tough for us actually, financially and work-wise. But yeah, I think once we get down to the water, I will address those things a little bit more in depth. We'll be there in a few minutes. So this little path that I'm walking on now is actually a little shortcut to get down this, like a relatively newly built residential area down here. It's an old actually military facility that they turned into a high school and some apartments. It's very nice, you will see soon. And yeah, this path is a little shortcut that I can take to get to that part of town. So the place where I'm living the name is Strängnäs. It's a small town. In the whole commune, it's about almost 40,000 people living, but there are like several kind of small towns making up the entire commune. So in this main part where we live, I think it's about 20,000, 15,000, 20,000 people lives here. So we have, yeah, in the city center there's like tiny little shopping mall. We have 2 supermarkets, have a pretty nice library and kind of culture house where I spend a bit of time, and yeah, there's not a whole lot else to do. It's a very nice town in the summers. But in the winter, I mean, I often feel quite bored here, to be honest. There's not much to do, and I miss the ease, like in Tokyo, where I could just, you know, hop on a train and, you know, go to some new neighborhood and explore. You can't really do that here. I mean, sure, there you can go to like the neighboring cities, but the trains are very infrequent, and it's also pretty expensive. And there's like basically one train every hour in each direction. And if I want to go to the capital, Stockholm, it's a 45-minute train ride. So it's not too bad in that sense. But yeah, I wish the trains were a little bit more frequent and also a bit more reliable, because right now they're always delayed. So instead I'm trying to find other things to do. So as I mentioned before, I actually got a driver's license a few months ago. So that's one milestone in my life. Since getting it, I've been driving a car once. We rented a car like a month and a half ago, and that's it. We're kind of still on the fence of if we should get a car or not. Oh, hello Daniel and Yuka. Good to see you here. But I started going to the gym. So that's another milestone. Actually, you can see it. There's a building down there. That's actually my gym. So it's about 10-15 minutes walk from where I live. And I enjoy it a lot. It's nice to finally kind of actively work on my physical health a little bit. And especially now, because when I'm in Tokyo, it's like I walk a lot. I do all the live stream. I'm very active. But here, and especially once the days get even shorter and colder, it's very easy to just get stuck indoors. So it's kind of nice to do that. I enjoy it a lot. I'm gonna go there later today, actually. Oh, signal is bad here. Hopefully it gets better soon. See, are we back? No, signal is still a bit broken. Uh-oh. What now? Are we back? Is the signal still dead? Not good. Let's see, are we back, or is the stream dead? Did the stream survive? I think we're back. Great, we're back. Wonderful. I was worried that the stream was gonna die on me, but yeah, there's some antennas over there, so I think here signal should be good. So this is the old military facility that I talked about, that has been turned into a high school and some apartments. Let's go down to the water here because it's quite beautiful. New iPhone 16 Pro Max. No, I'm still on my old 14 Pro Max actually. I haven't really felt the need to upgrade. Stream never died. That's good. That's good. It looked like it for a while here at my end. Yeah, this is a high school here, and then these buildings are like apartments. Over here is like some sports facility. It's quite nice. I wouldn't mind living here because the apartment has a very, very beautiful view. Still here. Okay, good. 25 people watching now. That's nice. But yeah, so we moved here 4 months ago. I'll give you the short version of the story in case there are some new viewers here who are curious about the background, what happened. Me and my family, we have a 4-year-old daughter. I really wanted her to learn some Swedish. Let's go down this way. So that's why we decided to move here. We've been talking about moving to Sweden for a long time, many years, and we finally decided to give it a shot. My wife had residence permit approved, and we felt like I felt like it was now or never, because when my daughter is in this age, you know, languages are very easy to her. And also getting a new residence permit, if we didn't use it this time, it would probably take another year at least of wait, and maybe it would be denied if they saw that we had one that we haven't used. So we decided to do it. We've been living here now for 4 months. We ended up in this little small town because we tried Stockholm a few times before and never really liked it that much there, and also there's so much crime and violence happening there right now, so we didn't really feel too tempted to move there. We know some people in this town, another Swedish-Japanese couple with a child who is the same age as our daughter, and their friends. And I stumbled across an apartment for rent, and we just decided let's try. If we like it, we stay. If not, we can go back. Better than expected. She's like, her Swedish is as good as the other kids on her preschool now, same age. So it's really impressive. But the downside is that she's kind of starting to forget. By the way, look, we want to live here in one of these with this view. That would be a very nice view to wake up to. I want to sit there on the balcony, have my morning coffee, and look at the water. That's quality of life. So yeah, she has learned Swedish. She speaks a lot now, no problem. Problem is just that she's starting to forget her Japanese, so that's a little bit concerning. But she's going back to Japan with her mom, just for a few, like not even 2 weeks, but still, just to get her language refreshed, and also to, of course, to see her grandma and whatnot there. And yeah, we're a bit torn about life here. Like sometimes, some days, like when the weather is nice, like today, it's actually a very good place to live. It's safe, it's peaceful, it's beautiful, and like I mentioned before, the access to the big to the capital and other cities is relatively good. So in that sense, it's we enjoy it. We do feel that it's a very good environment for our daughter. She's very happy here. The access to nature. We often go to the forest together. Small things like that, but they mean a lot for our quality of life. So it's really beautiful this morning. But the problem is that it's difficult to make it work financially. We haven't really found that much work yet. We are starting up, or we're starting up our photography business here. We're hoping to do something similar to what we were doing in Japan. But obviously the market in Stockholm, which would be our main workplace, it's not the same as Tokyo, even though Stockholm also has a pretty solid tourism industry. Tokyo is just something else. So we'll see. Like that's, we will keep working on that for a few more months. But as it is right now, we're basically living off our savings. We have a few small jobs here and there, but cost of living here in Sweden is much higher than in Japan. So that's a bit of a challenge. So we'll see. We hope we can make it work here, because I think if we do, we would have a very nice life here. The nature and the lack of busy crowds and packed trains does help a lot for our mental well-being. And yeah, so hopefully it will work, but if not, we might have to go back to Japan sometime next year maybe. We're planning to go there in the spring together, stay for about a month, work during the cherry blossom season. That's already in the pipeline, so we will be there mid-March to mid-April. So hopefully I can do some live streams there. Just look at this, it's so beautiful. Yeah, we had a very comfortable financial situation in Japan, which we do miss. We were able to basically go on trips whenever we wanted, and it's not like we disliked or we were severely unhappy there. Life in Japan is very good too. In some ways it's much better than here. So it's you know, it's both places have their pros and cons, but without having like a safe financial situation, it's yeah, it's going to be very stressful to continue living here. So for example, some things that are much better in Japan is the food. We really miss Japanese food. We miss the restaurants. We miss being able to go out and eat for cheap pretty much every day. Here it's twice as expensive and half as tasty. Like I mentioned before, I miss the Japanese transportation system. The Swedish trains are just not very reliable, and also to me, I mean, Japan is still a very exciting place. There's still a lot for me to discover and explore in Japan. Sweden, on the other hand, feels very kind of like, yeah, bland and a little bit boring. But on the flip side, I think that this is a healthier environment for a child to grow up in. It's a little bit more peaceful. People are a little bit more, how should I say, a little bit more focused on the important things in life. I feel that Japan, or at least Tokyo, is a very kind of like consumer driven society, and everything is like about spending money, going to Disneyland, shopping. Here it's more like people in general appreciate the smaller things in life more, like being out in the nature, and it's a much healthier work-life climate as well. People here don't work so much, and everybody agrees that spending time with your family and friends is much more important than working. I also feel that, yeah, more grounded, that's a good way to put it. I also feel that since my child is since I have a daughter especially, I feel that the Swedish society is much more friendly towards women. People here have more equal possibilities. So that's also an important factor. Wow, it's such a beautiful morning. I'm so glad I decided to take here. 2 months ago, people were actually swimming here. This is like, you can basically swim anywhere here. There are so many small bridges. You see, there's some stairs to go down into the water. On that bridge, there's another one. Wow, look at this. This is super beautiful. Of course, like nature and greenery, Japan has plenty of those too. Of course, if you live somewhere else than in Tokyo, it's like you can have probably even better access to nature and all those things. So that's not really a Sweden versus Japan thing. It's more like maybe living in Tokyo as opposed to living somewhere else kind of thing. So yeah, I'm snapping lots of photos here on my other phone. I didn't bring a camera this morning. That's a bummer. I should have done that. Maybe. I'm sure there will be more mornings like this. Actually, my wife was out around midnight. She went down here because my wife is obsessed with northern lights, and she read that last night the solar activity were very strong, or well, if you want to be nitpicky about it, a few days ago the solar activity was very strong, which meant that last night there was very strong northern lights activity. And she could actually see, I think she went down somewhere here, she could see some northern lights over the horizon there. She was very happy with that. So yeah, pros and cons, and of course another important pro with living here is that my mom is very close to us, and she can come and we can visit her very easily. She can help us out a lot. She can babysit, things like that. Unfortunately, we didn't really have that possibility in Japan. My wife's family were not in good enough shape to babysit, for example. So that's unfortunately. But yeah, so that's a very nice thing about living here, to have a little bit of assistance, just a short phone call away. If you have any other questions, please let me know in the chat. I think I've touched on most of the things that I wanted to tell you about living here. Can you see there's a little bit of like steam or smoke from the water? Super beautiful. But yeah, one thing that I missed the most from being in Japan was actually being able to do my YouTube channel. I mean, I'm doing it here too, but in Japan it actually made me a little bit of money in a way that felt that it was worth the time. And I highly doubt that I will ever reach that point here, doing the same thing here in Sweden. And also I'm just not so inspired and excited about, you know, hopping on the train, visit a new city here in Sweden is not nearly as interesting to me as doing the same thing in Japan. Is it difficult with the air quality? So Sweden has splendid air quality. There's maybe a few streets in Stockholm where it's less than perfect, but in a place like this, I mean, the air here is beautiful. There's no pollution to speak of, no industries. How expensive is Sweden compared to Japan? So it really depends on your way of life. I would say rent is kind of similar. We are renting our place now, and it's cheaper. It's cheaper here than in Tokyo. We are paying 9,000 crowns a month, which is about which is about 120, 130,000 yen, or kind of like $900 for a 2-bedroom apartment, 50 something square meters. It would cost more to rent a place that size in most areas of Tokyo, unless you're like very far in the outskirts. But taking the train is like much more expensive. To go to Stockholm and back is about 4,000 yen, but to go to like central Tokyo from where I lived was like a tenth of that. So that's a pretty big difference. Eating out, like I said, is like at least twice as expensive here and much lower quality. But there's of course benefits. I mean, we don't need to pay any health insurance because that's paid for by our taxes here in Sweden. In Japan I was paying like 60 or 80,000 yen a month for my health insurance, so that's quite a big difference. Also, school education is free, so it's great when you have a child. You don't need to worry about that. Even universities are free in Sweden and also pretty high quality. So as a parent, that's an important thing to acknowledge. Taxes in Sweden are a bit higher than in Japan, but not by a lot. And it also depends on how much you earn. But I would say, like, if you have like an average income in Sweden, if you're working for a company, if you're getting a salary, tax is somewhere between 25 to 30%. So, and it's probably what most people pay in Japan too, if you include pension and your health insurance, because that's included in the tax here in Sweden. So to make it fair, I think that should be included if you compare it with Japan. And groceries, probably about the same. You have to change your diet, of course. If you want to eat Japanese food here in Sweden, it's much more expensive. My wife was actually planning to buy Japanese rice. We were in Stockholm yesterday. She was planning to buy Japanese rice at a shop that imports it, but that was like more than twice as expensive as in Japan. But on the contrary, things like, say, pasta and bread is cheaper here than in Japan. So if you're kind of cooking your local cuisine, I think it would be roughly the same here if you live here compared to if you live in Japan. What else? Yeah, it really depends. I mean, we got used to a certain lifestyle in Japan that would be very expensive to maintain here. We went on a lot of weekend trips, stayed at hotels probably almost once every month. We went like somewhere else, did an overnight stay, a night or two. Things like that would be much more expensive here. But if you think about like the cost of raising a child up until finishing university, then I think those differences would probably tip the scales in favor of Sweden. Salaries in general are also higher in Sweden than in Japan. But I say in Japan the differences are much lower. Like some people earn like, I don't know, I would say maybe a lower middle income earner in Japan compared to a high middle range income earner. Like, I'm not talking like CEOs of international companies, but like, you know, middle class but upper middle class. maybe they earn like 4 or 5 times more in Japan, whereas here in Sweden I would say like it's just maybe twice as much, or maybe at most 3 times as much. So the differences are smaller. So Sweden feels more equal in that sense. In Japan you have a lot of people who are struggling a lot financially to get by. I feel that as long as you have a job in Sweden, then you're guaranteed a certain basic minimum, which is relatively high. Even the cheap apartments here are like much nicer than the cheap apartments in Japan, for example. We don't have any 15 square meter apartments like they do in Japan. What else? Sorry, I'm so focused on taking in all these beautiful views that I'm actually forgetting to read the chat. Let me check if you had any other questions for me. Let's see. Yeah, Paris probably has small apartments. I mean, there are a lot of big differences in the European countries. I think Scandinavia in general, we don't really have lack of land. We have plenty of land and small populations, so everybody can have a big apartment here. Although, I mean, the housing situation in Stockholm is very complicated because they don't build enough there. So it's very difficult to find an apartment in Stockholm. So let's see, any other comments or questions? Oh, Ray, thank you for pointing that out, Azante. Let's see. Haha, here you go, Ray. But unemployment is different. Yeah, I mean, Sweden and Europe is having a pretty hard time right now financially. Basically, since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, that was a pretty hard blow on the economy. And also, of course, before that we had the pandemic. And Sweden hasn't really recovered. I feel that in Japan, maybe it's not that different. Japan also is struggling financially in some ways, but we were in a very good place because tourism to Japan is really booming right now, and that's where both me and my wife were working. So we had like a very good and stable financial situation for now. So that's a big difference for us personally, but that doesn't translate to everyone. I mean, a lot of people are struggling in Japan, and prices have gone up in Japan too, and salaries haven't really followed. So to a lot of Japanese people, it's actually, yeah, Japan is also a bit of a challenge. But we were having a very good situation there. Would Sweden be a good place to retire? I think so. If you're okay with the climate, if you're okay with it being, I mean, on mornings like this, I think it's fine. But 2 days ago it was just like gray, overcast, raining, everything was ugly, and we have a lot of the days like that. So I think the biggest issues with retiring in Sweden would be the climate. Especially from what I know, a lot of Swedish people, when they get older, they want to live somewhere warmer because they start to feel like they have pain in their body, and it gets worse with the cold. So that's a pretty big downside. A lot of Swedes move to like Spain when they retire. Is it easy to get job in Sweden as a foreigner, Indian? It really depends on what skills you have. There's some industries are like really struggling to find people, especially like I think IT has been like that for a long time. I think there's quite a lot of Indians working in IT in Sweden. So if you have that kind of skills, then I think it's pretty easy. But if you're just hoping to find a job without any, like, that doesn't require any qualifications, it's not really easy. And they actually tighten the rules. It used to be so that if you had a job, if you had like a secured income, if you had an employer willing to kind of vouch for you, you could get a residence permit, working permit pretty easily. But now they increase, so now it's a minimum. The minimum salary that you have to earn in order to qualify is much higher than it used to be, which means that, you know, we used to have a lot of people coming from abroad to work as like cleaners or in restaurants, for example, but now the salary that those jobs pay you is not enough to qualify for a working permit. So that's yeah, that's a big difference. Sweden is kind of like making it more difficult to move here, because right now there's a political party who severely, like, they really want to tighten the number of immigrants coming to Sweden, and they have a lot of power right now, so they are implementing laws like that, pretty much like in a lot of other countries too. Yeah, I mean, there's so many nice homes here. I would love to live with the view of this. This is a lake, actually. This is Lake Mälaren, which is one of the biggest lakes in Sweden. Let's see, any other questions in the chat? Otherwise, I think I will wrap things up in about 15 minutes. I will walk a little bit further towards this the marina over here, and then wrap things up. With the rice shortage in Japan of late, that would add to the high price of Japanese rice in Sweden. I'm not sure if that affects it. I think it's just that the demand for Japanese rice is very low here. So the people who do import it can charge whatever they want, and they probably also have to, I mean, Japanese rice is not really that cheap in Japan either. And then you probably have to add like import duties, sales tax when you sell it here in Sweden, and still enough of a profit margin to make it worthwhile. So charging, like, I think it was about 8,000 yen equivalent, was 9,000 yen for a 5 kilo bag of Japanese rice here in Stockholm. And in Japan it would be like a third to half of that. Let's see, what else are you guys saying? It's just so beautiful and peaceful. It is, and you can imagine maybe this place in the summer. Over there is also, there's a small beach there, and the place where you can jump into the water. I mean, during the summer months this place is really, really lovely. A nice city. Probably missed out, but future plans, Sweden, Japan. So it really depends. If we can make it work here financially, we will probably stay. But that's still a pretty big question mark. We recently got our new website off the ground, and we hope to get some clients for the upcoming Christmas season. So we will probably do a bit of marketing, and we still have a bit of work left on the website. So I think if we see that there's a little bit of customers incoming to our photography business in the coming month and over the holiday season, I think that could give us enough inspiration to kind of try to make it work a little bit longer. But I think if you know, if the Christmas and New Year season passes and we still feel that it's like hopeless to make this worthwhile, then we might decide to return to Japan sometime next year. Yeah, the landscapes here are stunning. Sweden has a lot of beautiful landscapes. It's just that, and I love taking landscape photos. It's just that I don't know how to make a living out of that. How far are you from starting a coffee shop? I've thought about it several times. I am kind of tempted. I mean, it's this kind of long dream that I've had for probably 20 years now, that one day I would like to open a little coffee shop and maybe combine it with a photo art gallery, kind of culture space. I've been thinking about it. That's still like, it's something that I'm still tempted to do, but it also scares me because it involves quite a bit of financial risk, and also that means I have to get a place, which is a very big commitment. So yeah, I'm not ruling it out, but it's not something that I've been actively looking further into. And I don't think doing it here would make any sense in this little town. I think it's too small. There's not enough demand. So in that case I would have to do it in somewhere else. Maybe Stockholm, but Stockholm already has so many coffee shops. I would prefer to do it in a medium-sized city. I would actually love to do it in Norrköping, which is the town where I grew up, which is a medium-sized city with a pretty big university. So there's lots of students there. So yeah, who knows? Who knows? Maybe I will get back to you, my dear viewers, and see if we can do some sort of like fundraiser. If I can get some of you to invest in it, then that would make it easier. How's my brother doing? I have several brothers, but they're doing well. We haven't met them since coming to Sweden, because they live in Malmö, which is like 5 hours away from here. But we're going there in 2 weeks. 2 weeks exactly today. We're going to Malmö. Me and my family are going there, and then from there, a few days later, my wife and daughter will take the train to Copenhagen airport and fly back to Japan. And I'll probably stay in Malmö for a week or two. Yes, my brother, no, he doesn't own a coffee shop, but he's been working as a barista, and now he works at a roastery. So he's a very good asset if I decide to move on with my coffee shop opening plans. I actually have 4 brothers, but they're half brothers. So I guess 4 half brothers equals 2 full brothers. I don't know, but yeah. But it's a little bit complicated. I'm only in touch with 2 of them. The other 2 I never really. Yeah, we have the same father, but it's a bit complicated. A stream with your wife, you should do a stream with your brothers. Yeah, that's actually, wait, let's go down here. Let's walk all around this little peninsula and enjoy the views. "30 people watching. Nice. I'm glad that some of you, if there's any new, like the only ones writing in the chat are my old long-term viewers from my Japan days. Are there anyone who is new to this channel? If so, please say hi in the chat. It would be nice to know. It's the same like with live streams, you know, in Japan I could just hop on a train and go anywhere. There were so many nice places to do live streams. But now living here, it's like basically what I've shown you today, that's it. There's not that much. Like if I want to do more live streams, like it's just going to be the same. I guess the views will change as the seasons changes, but if I would go do like daily live streams from here, you would probably get very bored easily. But yeah, we were swimming here, me and my daughter and my mom, in the end of August. It's been a very warm summer here in Sweden, and also like for this time of the year it's surprisingly warm. Yeah, what is it now? 4 degrees according to my watch. So yeah, the living in Tokyo just made it so easy for me to keep producing material for my channel and to go on walks, live streams all the time. It never got boring, but here in Sweden I feel much more limited when it comes to doing YouTube. Hello Edwin. Well, we don't only come for the views, but also the social aspects. Yeah, I know. Thank you, Ray. That warms my heart to hear. And I know that that's the case to my most devoted viewers. And that's something I'm super grateful for. But yeah, a lot of people were watching my channel because they were so curious in Japan and to see Japan, and they enjoyed seeing new parts of Tokyo and elsewhere. Here I just feel that it's going to be very difficult to do something similar. I'm so glad I decided to do a live stream this morning because my god, these views are so nice. Do you like the taste of tap water in Sweden more than Tokyo? Yes, absolutely. Swedish tap water is delicious. The tap water in Tokyo tastes like chlorine. So actually in Tokyo we had to use this filter to make it taste okay, but here in Sweden you don't need to. The water is just delicious the way it is. That's nice. And another good thing about living here compared to Japan is that I feel that because of the strict food quality regulations we have in Sweden, it feels safer for my daughter too. In Japan, a lot of things, a lot of chemicals and additives are allowed in the food, which are not allowed here in Sweden. Wow, sorry I disturbed those two. Maybe they were on a first date or something. Yeah, here we don't really like. Actually, there's a shop here in this little town, a sushi place that sells some Ramun, which is this sweet drink imported from Japan, and they actually had to put a label on the bottle saying that it contains some additive that can cause like hyperactivity or concentration, like, how do you say, it can impact children's ability to focus. So you know, and in Japan, of course, that thing is just sold over the counter. So in Sweden, it's very strict. Sweden and all of Europe, I think, these things are usually managed on an EU level. That's another little, pretty minor bonus point for Sweden, because on the other hand, I feel that the quality of the food, a lot of the things we eat in Japan is much higher. It's much fresher. And it's a lot focused on, like, you know, locally grown vegetables and so on in Japan. Here in Sweden, it's like often just imported from some other EU country. And yeah, so there's both pros and cons. Basically Red Bull, yeah, probably. I'm pretty sure Red Bull needs to put that kind of label on the drinks here in Sweden too. And then, of course, I also have to mention the manners. That's like one thing we miss, both me and my wife, we miss it a lot from Japan. Here in Sweden, a lot of people are very rude. You don't have like the same service mentality. And my worst thing is like when you take the train or the bus, people are like watching YouTube with the sound on their phone, or they're talking on a video call with someone without using headphones, like things that are completely unthinkable in Japan. And that's severely a big negative when it comes to quality of life here in Sweden. That was much better in Japan. Have you been able to avoid using words like sumimasen, itadakimasu? Yeah, I think that's no problem for me. And I mean, we do use those words at home because we speak Japanese at home from time to time, so I can still say those things and it still makes somewhat sense. But no, I don't say itadakimasu when I'm alone at Burger King in Stockholm. I don't. In Sweden, are there more drunk salarymen in Sweden than in Tokyo? There are definitely more drunk people on the streets in Tokyo. However, the drunk people on the streets in Tokyo are generally very well behaved, and the drunk people on the streets here in Sweden are never well behaved. So I would say 10 drunk Japanese salarymen causes less meiwaku, what's that, like disturbance to others, than one drunk Swede. So in terms of annoyances, I think the drunk Swedes are far worse. But here in our little local town, there's not many drunk people on the streets. There's maybe a few outside the only liquor shop in the town. Sometimes maybe there's a few drunk people in front of it, but they are pretty harmless. They don't annoy me much. But in Stockholm, you would have like drunk people trying to pick a fight and being aggressive and loud and obnoxious, and that's of course also very rare in Japan. Can tell by the smell of elevators. Yeah, in Sweden a lot of elevators smell of pee, and I don't think I've ever had I've ever encountered a pea-smelling elevator in Japan. So of course, and also like the public toilets in Sweden are more often than not quite disgusting, which is also something that's much better in Japan. But yeah, we just passed the 1 hour mark. I think I've touched on most things I wanted to talk about, so let me know now if you have any additional questions or if you want me to say something. If not, you should remain silent forever. We're in Sweden, there's a windmill. Actually, there's not that many windmills in Sweden. But this one is kind of iconic. That windmill and the church tower, that's kind of like the iconic landmarks of Strängnäs. But yeah, I think that will be it then. So thanks very much for watching. It's been nice. It's been really enjoyable for me to do a live stream and hang out with so many of my longtime viewers again. That's been great. I think I will try to start doing live streams more often again. I'm glad you enjoyed it too, Justin. So many boat slips and not that many boats. Do they fill up in summer? Yes, the boat season is pretty much over now. So in the summer it's full. I think if you look at my channel, there should be some summer walk from this town where you can see what it looks like in the summer. Olive says will you make many walks in the winter? I think so, but I think it depends on what kind of winter we will get. If we will have a beautiful winter with snow and lots of days with blue skies and, you know, weather like this, then I think that will inspire me to do a lot of walks and streams this winter. But some winters it's more like just gray, rainy, not cold enough for snow, then it's really depressing. Then I'm not sure how many walks I will do. Yeah, Olive, I heard about this. They want to remove the fluoride out of the tap water. Actually, I was a little bit surprised because when I heard that, I was looking it up, like what's the situation in Sweden. And I learned that we have never had fluoride in our drinking water, except from a brief period of time in my hometown, in Norrköping. They did a kind of test for a couple of years. That was before I was born though. But yeah, so that was a little bit surprising. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'll be back soon. I'll be back with a premiere tomorrow, most likely. I took some walks in Stockholm yesterday that I'm looking forward to sharing with you. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Bye bye, hej då, auf Wiedersehen und matane. Tschüss.